Hello and welcome to Inner Knowing with Erin Rogers. I am beyond thrilled to have the beautiful Elizabeth with me today. We're going to talk about, well, let's see. We'll see what we can talk about. But I have a list of things I want to talk to her about in terms of the magic she's created in her life, how I've seen her grow and develop. I think that's sometimes like a cool way to like witness people is to be part of each other's journeys and kind of be like, oh, what a great reminder of like you saw people where they started and you see that evolution and we keep repeating. But if you would like, could you introduce yourself in the way you like to introduce yourself, and if you want to include any fun, if you care obviously, but your astrology or human design or any other fun fact. I always love to profile people in a healthy astrology way, you know.
Sure, love it. I am Elizabeth Cordova. Hi, everyone. I am an artist, a meditation teacher, a dancer. Just I've been thinking about the phrase creativity doula for some reason.
Ooh.
That has been like really alive in my heart lately. So I'm testing that out. I support artists and creatives to bring their creativity to the forefront of their life so that they can make their art and in doing so make their life. And it's been a really beautiful experiment that I've been conducting on myself for the past 5 or so years. And
Yeah.
for my astrology, I am a Virgo sun and Sagittarius rising and Cancer moon. So I used to say it was very much like being on a seesaw. I feel like
Yeah.
the Virgo and the Sagittarius especially can have maybe opposing ideas or opinions about what we should be doing. But learning more about astrology, I have been so grateful to kind of figure out how to get these energies to be supporting of one another instead of always in conflict.
Hmm.
And for human design, I don't know a lot about human design. I think I am a, we did this last time, I'm a 1 3, because there's no 3 1, right? I'm a
Yeah.
1 3, a manifesting generator, and sacral. I'm like, sacral is
Sacral
a
authority.
human
Yeah.
design word,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, what does that mean, Erin?
It means that your body shows you the yes and no. Like there's no waiting. It's like in the moment you're like, "Oh my God, amazing!" Or if, and I, cause I feel like I'm very literal. Or it's like this, "Oh, I don't think so," and you like lean back, like when you're in, especially when you're in tune, you start to notice that that yes and no is sometimes so visceral that your physical body is actually showing you the answer. So, or you can feel it. But yeah, the sacral guides us. So we're in the moment. We know, and the body tells us.
Okay, yeah, that feels
Yeah.
right.
And just kind of like that. For me, I'm always like, fuck yeah. Or then sometimes you're like, yeah, but your whole body's saying no. It's like that was bad. We'll talk a little bit about corporate. I feel like that's my corporate life where I'm like, I finally had to learn to listen to the like no from the body versus the mind thinking it's a good idea. So that was my learning. Well, thank you for that introduction. And while we're recording this, one fun fact about me, my dad coached basketball for 35 years. I was in a basketball court within 2 days of being born, and it's my favorite sport. And I actually have surprised a few people. I'll go to the bar by myself, and I'll be the one yelling at the screen. And Elizabeth happens to be in New York the day before, right? Tomorrow's game five after New York just had
Game five.
the best comeback of all time. My jaw was on the ground. My dad, so we talked basketball, and I was like, "Did you watch that great game?" And he missed part of it, and he goes, "Oh, coaches lose the close ones." And so I said to him, I go, "Well, then the janitor must be responsible for that because how do you blow like a 29, 30
Celebrate
point lead?"
right? I know, it's wild.
No,
Being in New York right now, the energy is unmatched. It
yeah.
is just this collective optimism for the Knicks to be on this like amazing historical run at the same time that it's Pride Month, at the same time that the World Cup is starting, at the same time that there's all of these cultural parades that are like always scheduled for the summer that are coinciding with this. And so the energy is just up. And I am so grateful to be here to just like soak it in by osmosis and to definitely jump on the bandwagon and get
Yeah.
rowdy and cheer for the Knicks has been like what a surprise and delight of the summer. It's great.
Yeah, I'm curious for you. Like, I love nothing more than that electric. Like for me, it's like my body is like, oh my God, like it's almost like an upgrade because you're sitting in the electricity of it all, and like you can't fabricate it. It's something that has to happen naturally, which I think it's a cool feeling to embody. Because for me, I'm like, oh, as I'm saying that, I'm like, it's a great teaching lesson of like, you can't fabricate it. You have to like hone it in, which I feel like kind of dips into the creativity that you're talking about. I had another friend on the podcast, and while I'm no Virgo, I can be highly mental. That's probably my Gemini rising. She'll take ownership. But I in the last few years had this big realization after going through massive healing that, and it was someone who told me, but I was like, yes. And it was that healing wasn't my purpose, creation was. And it was a step along the way, but actually, and I don't know how you use it, but I feel pretty cool with like God, God, creator, universe, whatever it is, but that creation was God's greatest gift. And I feel like it was a cool relief to be like, actually, creation's what gets me going, and the healing was amazing. But when I realized I didn't have to be a healer, like for me, I felt great relief, and that's some people's gift. But you mentioned it. I'm always very inspired by. I mean, I don't live in the same city as you, unfortunately, but what you share online when I'm like, oh, put down the fucking phone, Erin, and go and paint the picture or make the collage or whatever it is, right? But like, tell me about your journey to like this creation as the guide. It sounds like a guiding force in what you're creating in your own life and how you're supporting others. I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, so I totally agree. I think that healing is, I mean, it is, you do one and then the other, like, you have more access to the other. And so it's not like extrinsic maybe from each other, the creation and the healing. I find that I had to spend, I grew up with a pretty, very difficult childhood and a lot of trauma around identity and self love and acceptance. And so when I turned just about 28, I'm like right during my Saturn return, I just experienced some of the darkest and most depressing season of my life. And it was during that time that I found astrology and that I found breath work and that you and I were connected initially in 2020.
Yeah.
And I spent probably 3 years just like deeply, deeply healing and recovering as much of my identity as I really could. And what that allowed was for some clarity to start to come through. What that allowed was for some like spaciousness and some just like some divine energy to actually be transmitted to me in a way that I felt was clear and was aligned with my soul once it had been sort of. I feel like sometimes our trauma can just like be fluff or
Mm.
like a shell or like a funk, that
Yeah.
really can distort your relationship to yourself and therefore like your relationship to your creativity. And so for me, I had to spend a couple of years like clearing the funk,
Yeah.
and then I had access to some clarity, and so I started to make more art, and I started to spend a lot of time using collage and using what I would say is like low stakes creative practice to be in a meditative state. And what happened was I would finish a piece of art and I would be like, oh my God, I could do anything. I made something with my own two hands and my own, connection to spirit. And there's this tangible thing that I feel, number one, I have imbued with so much joy, but also that I'm like really proud of and that I think should be shared with other people. And it helped me, my low stakes creative practice helped me to start to feel more comfortable exercising my like creation powers in my own life. And so
Cool.
that is really the like deep work that I'm doing now is flexing those creation flexing those creation muscles as much as I can out in my world to see sort of like what beauty can I cultivate in my real life now.
Oh my God, amazing. I like how you framed that. I learned along my astrology way that my something about my Virgo owns my creation. So sometimes I get really particular. I would say like I want it to be perfect in the way that you've just described a low stakes art practice, which actually circumvents it to a degree because I think in some ways collage specifically, you can't get it wrong because that's the whole element of it. It's layers, and you could always add another layer. Tell me how it came to be. Was it like a practice you'd always had? Like, you've mentioned you have some Virgo-esque elements, but like it sounds very freeing the way you describe it. And I'm sometimes sad for people when they tell me they're bad at art. I'm like, nobody's bad at art. You just have to find the art that you love or you're good at. You can't be bad at it. You just haven't found the right thing. So I'd love to know more about how you found it or why that's the thing that kind of you realize was the funnel, the place, the direction that was really going to be freeing for you.
Yeah, it's interesting when I think about it. I'm like, okay, how did collage come into my life? So, when I graduated college, I moved to Vietnam
Yeah.
and I was there for 6 years. And I took a bunch of trips when I was based in Southeast Asia. And so I would go to Tokyo, I would go to Singapore, I would go to Bali, I would go to Thailand, and I would pick up fashion magazines at the airport on my way home that would say like the month and the year and be the Vogue Japan or whatever. And so I had all these magazines when I was living in Asia that were kind of like totems or souvenirs, really, of my travels. And during COVID, I was living in Vietnam when COVID first started, and the country immediately went into lockdown. And so I was at my apartment, and Diplo, are you familiar with the DJ Diplo?
I am. I really like his
Oh,
social media presence. I really enjoy the way that he's showing up in the world.
it's unfortunate there are some like controversial things that have come out
Oh,
in the past few years, and I don't think we need to get into that now, but I, during COVID, he would play, oh, I'm gonna forget the name of it. It was like a specific like COVID at home DJ set that
okay.
he would have like friends come over and they would just like jam at his house.
Right.
And so I would put that on my living room TV and just like cut and paste. I started with the fashion magazines because that's literally all that I had in terms of art supplies. And it started really as just a way for me to like do something because I was at home. And when I started getting into, eventually I moved back to America and was going through this dark night of the soul and started doing breath work. And I still had all my magazines and I still had my collage practice, but it sort of shifted and became a way for me to create an artifact for my meditation. So I would do a meditation and then I would immediately go and start making a piece of art. And it was amazing because I have a couple of like favorite magazines, but there are some that are specifically like a more spiritual bent to them. And so there would be like beautiful poetry about Mother Earth. I have like a couple of mushroom specific magazines. And so there were just I started diversifying the types of magazines that I was using to make my art. And at the same time shifted the art making practice to something that was intentionally and more spiritual. And so that's how I started with collage. And I think the thing that
Cool.
I keep returning to is that I love it as an introductory practice for people because it is just what you were saying, like there's not a lot of technique. You don't have to be
Yeah.
like a naturally gifted drawer or painter. It's literally just like cutting and pasting and layering, as you said. And so anybody can do it and make something that they feel really good about. And feeling really good about something that you've made is kind of the whole point for me.
Mhm.
And that is why I continue to teach meditation and to teach collage as like a unified practice.
Okay, great. Shit, I love this. I'm gonna go buy make I'm like, I'm gonna go buy magazines. I used to love it when I was younger, but this feels um the way that you've positioned it. And I you know what I feel like it's so interesting, right? Like people always looking for ways to get into flow, but there's some really simple pieces like maybe meditation's hard, so maybe they start with collage because I feel like once you find flow, maybe you know you go in the opposite direction. And when you're meditating or you're creating this art, are you getting a lot of downloads? Like, what are you experiencing, sort of
Mm.
in the greater piece, or does it like do you not care? You're like, "Cool, sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't." I feel like
Mhm.
you're quite connected, so I would assume that probably you get downloads and drop-ins, but what happens for you on that sort of like bigger scale?
So normally I will do a breathwork meditation specifically
Hmm.
before I get into my collage practice. Not every time, of course, but if I have the time, then that's kind of my preferred way in. And I find that sometimes usually the downloads will come during the breathwork practice, and
Hmm.
so then I might have a specific something that I want to like concretize with the collage. I'll have a specific idea or intention, or
Hmm.
I've crafted a lot of like astrology specific collages. Like I have one at least for every sign in the zodiac.
Hmm.
Um, and so sometimes there is like a specific energy that I'm bringing into the practice and like seeking out things that sort of fit that idea. Other times I'll just go and just kind of cut and paste whatever it is that jumps out at me. And I
Hmm.
try to remind the folks that I'm working with, because I do this exact practice like as a workshop in New York. And what I tell everybody as we're going into the collage is like, we are putting our thinking minds in the back seat and letting our intuition and letting our heart be the thing that is driving this creative practice.
Hmm.
And so, as much as you can, try not to think about what it is that you want to make. Try not to intellectualize it. Try
Hmm.
to, as much as you can, stay in your heart space and just pick out the things that are resonating with you, that are like causing a little bit of a reaction. And you can literally just like cut them out and put them to the side. And then, the last 20 or whatever minutes of the session, start to piece things together. And it's fun because you get to be surprised by what comes out
Hmm.
when you create in this way. You get to have the like moment of delight where you're like, oh my gosh, these two things actually really look amazing together. Or if I
Yeah.
put this underneath this, then it creates this whole new, really interesting shape. And so I try as much as I can to like keep my mind occupied
Hmm.
on the side, usually with like a DJ set or something,
Yeah.
um, and let my intuitive flow be the thing that drives the creative practice.
So amazing because for me, you know, intuition or putting down the mind, I need to practice that continually because it's my mind is so habitual, and it's such a beautiful practice to be like it benefits probably all of your life, but you won't even need to know about that. I love a practice that doesn't actually let you know fully that actually everything is benefiting from this very simplistic seeming event, but actually the practice of leaning in for a period of time is kind of like hold the pose, you know, in a yoga sense of like the longer you hold the pose, the more innate it becomes to your body, and you might start to bend that way. And what it leads me to reflect on, I've had it, yeah, like you said, I've had a chance to know you for a while. And my recollection is that you had moved back from Vietnam, you were living in New York, you were working a corporate job, and without putting words in your mouth, but like, I mean, like you were quite a sad Elizabeth. You were kind of like, this isn't,
I was.
this isn't the vibe. Like, this isn't my dream. This isn't the vibe.
Yeah.
Um, I would love to hear about like my assumption is in some version this practice carried you through all those transitions because now you work for yourself, you run your own business, you're like shine. I think I see people as shiny. I'm like, you look shiny whenever I see you online, not in a sweaty sense. Maybe I know it's hot today, but like I can see the light inside of you beaming out in your expression whenever you post, whether it's like celebrating the Knicks or doing the work that you're called to do. But tell me about the experience of the transition and maybe it didn't, how this practice or a version of this practice carried you through from sort of sad gray Elizabeth who didn't like the change that she was, it seemed kind of like you had to make at the time, to the
Yeah.
version you are now. Mostly because I feel like sometimes when people are in that spot you were at the beginning, it's really hard to believe that you could be beaming so beautifully now, but it's nice to hear other people's stories.
Well, it was a long road. I will not, I'm not going to sugarcoat it,
Yeah.
It really took a lot of intentional time with myself and with my emotions. I am a Cancer moon, and so I do feel things deeply into my core. And for the astrology folks, my Cancer moon is in the eighth house, and so it's like a place of even
Yeah.
deeper, darker, transformational energy. And so there has never been really a season in my life where I've been able to transform without a period of like deep, deep descent first. And I just am, maybe that's not going to be the case moving forward. Maybe it would be amazing if I could just start to evolve without needing that. And at the same time, I am so grateful because I know the tools. I have developed a toolbox now to support me through the difficult transitions in my life. And you're right, collage is absolutely one of them. I have a bunch of collages that are dark
Hmm.
and angry and scary, honestly, which is interesting to me because I love going to museums and especially like a retrospective of an artist's life and seeing sort of the breadth of the work that they've created. And there are, especially, I'm like, Picasso freaks me out, Van Gogh kind of freaks me out. Though getting to see inside somebody's mind via the creations that they have, you know, displayed for us is wild. And I sometimes feel that way about my own art, where I will look back at something and I'll be like,
Hmm.
whoa, that was really dark. That
Yeah.
was a really dark time. But the thing is that in the time that I was making that work and feeling those feelings, getting it out on paper and being able to metabolize it and process it in a way that I'm like healthy, I don't know, healthy for me,
Hmm.
um, meant that I didn't have to carry it. I didn't have to continue to carry it. I could release it in some way and have it be external to me. And the corporate job, I'm like, I'm still working on some worthiness pieces. I'm still
Hmm.
working on some aspects of my life in entrepreneurship as they relate to money because I've
Hmm.
always found it really easy to get a corporate job and to like
Hmm.
excel at it and to make money and to be able to support myself in that way. And the pattern, though, is that I will get into a corporate job and that I will burn myself out. I will give so much because I'm getting some positive feedback from the boss or
Yeah.
because I'm looking for that affirmation of like, good work, honey. Um, Not that anybody calls me honey at work, but it's
Thank
weird that I
God,
said
actually.
that because I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I was maybe looking from that from my parents, and now I'm
Yeah.
getting it from my job, and it's creating this pattern in me where I'm not living my soul's purpose and I'm burning out, and I feel like I have no other choice because this is the only way that I know how to make money.
Yeah.
And so the transition into entrepreneurship, it was a hard one. It's been really hard, and I'm on a tangent, I feel. But the
It's
other thing
okay. Keep going. Yeah. No, I
I
like
just
it.
feel like there's one more piece, which is that my first year of entrepreneurship, was 2025, full-time entrepreneurship, I should say.
Hmm.
My first year of full-time entrepreneurship was 2025. And I decided to go all in on my business in January. And
Hmm.
then in February, I got the news that my grandma was dying
Mm.
and it was going to be quick. And we're like soul sisters. I'm
Mm.
named after her. She was like my ride or die from
Yeah.
the time I was born. And that grief rocked me for like
Mm.
a whole year, basically.
Yeah.
And she did die in July of 2025. And so it was that descent that I had to do to kind of reconcile some things that had happened in my childhood and make some repairs in my family life. But my art has absolutely been this thing that has supported me through all of the transitions. It's
Mm.
always available to me. And so it's amazing that I have this outlet that can support me through like whatever is going on in my life.
Yeah. Beautiful. No, we got there. We got there. I liked it. It was a good journey. The thing I was going to comment on, probably because it's something I've had to really work with, is the thing I like about corporate. It's like I don't like it, but I dislike the authenticity, but I really like the guarantee, and I really dislike that about myself. Like, if I'm being honest, it's that input in is input out, including time in, money out. And it's something that I've realized I've struggled with in my own business is that like sometimes, especially entrepreneurship, it's input in for a long time, no output, and then maybe a big output, whatever. Like, but it's not, my brain can understand that. And that's sort of been, I guess, a little bit of a spiritual experience for me in the way that like same, right? I always say like I think our family life is we choose the same work environment that we had in our family life. That's how I experienced it. I was like, oh, I'm just playing out the same relations. It's same as like love and money are the same. It all kind of goes together. But what's do you have a reflection of like the biggest dismantling of a habit or like the edge that entrepreneurship was like, hey, you can keep going, but you can't take this thing with you because it doesn't fit in this other environment you're creating for yourself.
Yeah, definitely. So it's interesting that you said corporate feels like a guarantee because
Mhm.
being in New York and working in the tech industry, I'm like, no, it's not a guarantee. I mean, when I started working for my previous company, the last corporate job that I had, there were 6 rounds of layoffs before I was finally let go. And
Yeah.
so it's like we have this idea, and perhaps there are some industries that are more stable than others, but we have this idea that corporate equals safety, but it's like actually at any moment you're just as liable to get fired as not.
Yeah.
And so I had to really work on that within myself as well because when I did get laid off, I was like scrambling to be like, okay, well, I better just find another corporate job, because
Mhm.
that's the only way that I'll be able to pay my rent.
Yeah.
And the money component of being an entrepreneur is absolutely the biggest, I say, like the confrontation. I have
Yeah.
had to be in real work with myself around how it is that I'm making money in my business, how it is that I'm doing sales. I think, I mean, I'm literally having a session with my own like psychic healer after this because it's literally still a work in progress.
Yeah.
Um, but that is the biggest, I don't know, component of entrepreneurship that I am still engaging with.
Yeah. I know it's wild, isn't it? And when you tune in or if you can tune in, what kind of messages do you get about it? Like I think the annoying thing is I'm always like, well, that's a really loving, kind message, but like every time I go into fight or flight or freeze, which by the way I learned about female nervous system is more likely to go into fawn or freeze because that's what we're programmed. I was like, anyways, it's a whole other conversation. I learned all of our nervous system stuff is based on men. I was like, why am I always in freeze? They're like, that's more natural for. So I go into freeze, which for me means I can't create. I'm just
Yeah.
tucking your beautiful low risk art in the back of my mind. I'm like, oh, that's where it could go, where it could really benefit me. It's so thank you for that sort of inspiration. But when you tune in or you're channeling, like what do you get from your spirit guides? How do they encourage you, or if they encourage you to sort of, because I feel like our minds wouldn't keep us going. I feel like it has to be spirit sort of keeping us going on an entrepreneurial path sometimes when it can be so confronting.
Yeah, I think there's two tracks for sure. There's my soul
Hmm.
that when I am channeling like as my soul and as my guides, they're like, ha ha ha, you silly humans, letting this symbol in your bank account dictate whether or not you believe in your purpose and you believe in your gifts. Like,
Yeah.
you're so silly. Money is nothing to the
Yeah.
soul and to them. And that is a helpful reframe sometimes because I can get into a place where I'm like, okay, paying my rent, paying my bills, paying my blah, blah, blah. And then I look at the bank account and I'm like, well, this is not what I'm used to seeing. This is not what I would prefer to see, actually. And
Yeah.
maybe I should just go back and get a corporate job so that I can, pay for my vacation or whatever.
Hmm.
And for a long time, there was also some shame that I felt around not being able to support myself the way that I wanted to about I talked about this actually on a podcast episode of a solo episode I just did on mine, going into credit card debt for the first time in my life and
Mm,
having to really just be okay about it and be like, look, if I was a corporation,
totally.
I would have investors and we would probably not be profitable for the first couple of years. And
Yeah.
so, can I just
You
give
can tell we
myself
worked in tech a long time. We're like, yeah, yeah,
literally, I'm like, we don't have to go pub. We don't have to IPO for like a
no,
while,
we got
so
time.
it's okay. We can chill in the red, and this is also why. So the second track is of course my humanness. That's like, okay, well, I get it. Soul money is a made up, currency of exchange, but I do still like to be able to buy the things that I need when I need them. And it does impact your nervous system when there are insecurities about whether or not your housing, your health, your food are going to be
Hmm.
taken care of. And so I can't, I'm having a human experience and I can't ignore that component as well.
Yeah.
And where I am at now is like I said, I'm working with a person who is helping me to see my blind spots because I think that I have gotten myself kind of as far as I can. And now I'm like, all right, I need a surgeon or a doctor to come in and
Yeah.
help to like really get to the root of this so that we can just move on to the next level of abundance and wealth, which
Yeah.
I can feel it waiting. It's like it's like the drain is stopped. The stopper is in the drain, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, we're gonna pull that out, and then it's gonna flow. So this is what I return to.
I love that. Because I've done the dance for maybe at least 7 years. I love a long term. And I don't know about how your like Manny Gen works, but my generator is like I love the analogy of like it's stairs and I like learn and I go up and then I'm like flat for a while. I get really stuck in the corner and then I up and I like I'm really and the recent sort of up was like, do you really think the universe would keep making you go back to this if it wasn't gonna work? And I was like, well, no, I've always found success. So I'm on like a new my next iteration. I've like you know how it is when you like find a thing that you love that you've created, you're like, well, this thing I could sell forever. So it's just interesting when the new story comes through where they're like, it was like, do you really think we would keep telling you to do something if it wasn't supposed to work? Why don't you just commit to it? I'm like, okay,
I
okay, thank
know
you.
that is the buy-in, the trust, the leap,
Yeah,
the leap of faith um, is sometimes all that they're waiting for, which is bananas.
so annoying because I was like, I quit my corporate job. I like didn't work corporate for 2 years, and I'm like, yeah, but you didn't do it this way. I'm like, okay, fine. So excited for you. what are you co-creating or allowing to come in right now? Where are you at? I love your podcast. I love your collage art on the podcast. So amazing. I know you had a big
Yeah.
launch recently. Yeah, what's on your heart? What's sort of lighting you up in the world at the moment?
Mm. The podcast is definitely the thing that has been the most generative for me,
Hmm.
realizing that I am a chatty gal, you know, I love to
That
just like
Mercury got a
sit and have
Mercury.
a combo and be in real like heart space with
Yeah.
people who I find inspiring. And so the podcast has been amazing. It is called Inspired Risk, and it's just lighting me up in all the best ways. And I am still working out sort of like what I want my astrology readings and what I want my tarot readings to look like. And so
Hmm.
experimenting a little bit with the format with those. And then I have a group program that I am like relaunching called Collab. And it really is low stakes creative expression. Make your art so you can make your life. And it'll be a 4 month program. And we're going to learn how to listen, how to discern, and how to act on our intuition so that we can take leaps of faith and create a life that is aligned with our hearts and that we actually love to live.
Okay.
Yeah.
So exciting. When does that launch?
So the next cohort will launch in August, mid-August. I need to sit down and like set the date and do
Yeah.
some of the logistical things around it, but I've been so obsessed with the podcast that I just haven't done some of that stuff yet. So
Yeah.
TBD on the precise date. I think
Watch
it's
this
the
space.
22nd. Yeah.
Watch this space. She's gonna launch. Oh, you're gonna launch your Virgo season. We
I
love.
was like, maybe I'm gonna do it right before my birthday, and then I'll be 35 in September, and so I don't know. That feels kind of cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Is there anything I haven't asked you that you wish I had, including if you just want to speak from the heart space, or you have a message or a card or anything that you haven't I haven't asked you that you wish I had that you'd love to share before we find our conclusion today?
Yeah, I'm like, what is maybe some medicine for the community?
Hmm.
One thing that I like to remind folks is that perfection is the goal of many lifetimes. So if you are not feeling like you are getting it right and you are holding yourself to a standard of perfection, maybe just imbue a little grace and a little kindness into your journey, especially. And a good way to practice this is with making art, is to sit down and make something and have no expectations that it's going to be amazing, because we don't have to like punish ourselves and prevent ourselves from exploring and playing and finding joy, because we have this idea that things are only valuable if they're like good. And so that feels like a juicy note to leave everybody on.
Amazing. I love that reminder. Thank you so much. So
Yeah.
nice to see you again. Always the greatest joy.
Mm.
Um, Because I only record this in one go, I'm just going to share that I have two programs because I'm always doing too much. I have inner knowing and inner action, or not inner knowing, inner authority. 'Cause this is inner knowing. This podcast is inner knowing. I have inner action, which is an 8 week sprint to take you from freeze to action on your intuition, and then I have inner authority, which is for the woman that's in motion and wants to go bigger over time with consistent support. I will share more in the notes. Look at me, just out here selling
I
all
don't
day.
know. Wait, I don't know what the difference is. Tell. I'm like, I want to know more. Tell me.
Totally. Interaction is for you that if you're at freeze and you're like, I have the thing on my heart and I haven't been able to actually go and
Yeah.
execute, make it happen. I've been stuck in this like mental state of thinking about it. So we're gonna take you from mental state, wishing you coulda, shoulda, woulda, to acting intuitively on the dreams that are inside of you consistently over 8 weeks. So it's a full sprint. Inner authority is 6 months over time. You're now in motion, and we're going to go bigger through consistently taking larger steps and actions, being braver, sort of integrating any of those edges that come up when we take those big actions. We're going to integrate those, and it's going to be this epic 6 month journey where you're going to fully transform into like, fuck, I'm doing it. I'm doing it consistently and in a big
Is this
way.
the one that's related to astrology in terms of like the astrology seasons are like impacting the theme of the month? Is that right?
Yeah, that's going to be baked in there so that we kind of have a theme every month because really the moon, you know this. I love the moon already gives us a 4 week transformation cycle.
Yeah.
Hot tip. So we're going to use the transformation that's already happening in themes, but related to bigger dreams.
Amazing.
Exciting.
Look at us with our intuitive programs. Just two little Sag
Still Sag,
girlies
just trying to expand you. No big
supporting
deal.
people with the possibility of life. It's amazing.
And if people want to find you on the internet, actually, I should include that. Where can they find you on Instagram? We have your podcast, but remind us, where else can they find you?
Yeah, so my Instagram is Eliza, Eliza, Gets,
Hmm.
Gets, Intuit, Intuit. So it's a little pun.
Yeah.
And it is funny because I go by Elizabeth. I don't even go by Eliza, but it was short and snappy, so
There we
people
go.
don't forget. My website is Eliza Getz, ELIZAGETS.com, and you can
Amazing.
see all about collab, all about the astrology and tarot readings, my in-person workshops, I have a couple online workshops. So check it out and
Love.
let's connect.
Okay, go Knicks.
Go Knicks, baby!